know the conversation, the one that happens after most of the performance has dropped away, around 1 a.m. usually, or somewhere quiet after the social version of you has gotten tired and gone home, when something you actually think comes out before you've had time to edit it, and the person across from you doesn't flinch, doesn't redirect, doesn't give you the look that means you've gone slightly too far. They just stay. That's it. That's the whole thing. They stay, and somewhere around the chest there is a loosening. The particular release of someone who has been holding themselves carefully for a long time and has just realized they don't have to. I've been thinking about those people more than I probably should. Not the ones who left. There are other letters for that, but the ones who stayed. The specific, rare, almost impossible to account for people who loved you without needing you to be a more manageable version of yourself. The ones who loved you without asking you to be smaller. This letter is for them, and for you because of them. Most relationships require a small adjustment at the door, not a dramatic one. Nobody asks you to leave the most important parts of yourself outside, at least not in words. It happens more quietly than that. You arrive, you read the room, and somewhere between walking in and sitting down, you've already made a series of tiny calculations about which version of yourself is appropriate here. How much is too much tonight? Which opinions to leave in the car? How loud your laugh can be before it becomes a problem. I don't think most people do this consciously. I didn't for a long time. I thought I was just being considerate, adapting, reading social cues the way you're supposed to. It took me a while to notice that I was always slightly exhausted after, that the tiredness wasn't from the evening itself, but from the management of it, from the low-level, constant work of staying within the acceptable range of myself. And here is what I've come to believe. And I mean this more than it probably sounds. Most spaces are not built to hold a person completely. They're built to hold the version of a person that makes other people comfortable, which is a different thing entirely. You felt this, the slight contraction that happens when you walk into certain rooms, the editing that begins before you've said a word. That contraction is not shyness, it's not introversion, it's the body's way of saying, this space was not built for all of you. The first time someone didn't need you to be smaller, you probably didn't recognize it immediately. That's the thing nobody tells you about being truly seen. It doesn't feel like a revelation at first. It feels like a mistake. Like you said too much, and they haven't reacted yet. Like you're waiting for the correction that doesn't come. I remember the specific confusion of it. Saying something I would normally have softened. An opinion with edges. A feeling without a neat explanation. And bracing. And then nothing. Not agreement necessarily. Not even full understanding. Just space. Room for the thing I'd said to exist without being managed. It took several of those moments before I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. What changes isn't dramatic. It's not that you suddenly become someone different. It's that you stop performing the editing in real time. The constant low-level calculation, how much is too much, which version is appropriate here, goes quiet. Not forever, but long enough to remember what it feels like to simply be in a room without working. And then you realize, with something between relief and grief, how much energy you've been spending, how long you've been making yourself smaller without noticing. Because it had become so habitual, it stopped feeling like a choice. They didn't fix you. They just stopped asking you to fix yourself. That's the difference. I want to be honest about something, because I think it gets softened more than it should. This is rare. Not rare like finding a good apartment in a difficult city. Rare like, most people go their entire lives without experiencing this fully, without having even one relationship where they didn't have to manage themselves, where the editing could stop, where the full version of them was not just tolerated, but actually wanted. That's not an indictment of love. It's just an honest accounting of how rarely the conditions for it are actually met, and some people find it once. In a friendship that lasted 7 years and then ended for reasons that had nothing to do with love. In a relationship that was real and then wasn't. In a parent who saw them, fully, before they knew how to be seen. Once is enough to know what it feels like. Once is enough to change the way you understand yourself in every room that comes after. Because now you have a reference point. A before and after. You know what the contraction feels like. And you know it's not the truth about you. It's just the truth about those rooms. And knowing the difference between what you are and what certain spaces have room for is not a small thing. It's actually the whole thing. Martin Buber, a philosopher who spent his life thinking about what happens between people, made a distinction that I keep returning to, even when I wish I could put it down. He said that most of what we call relationship happens in what he called the I-it mode. We interact with people as functions, as roles, as objects in our own story, the colleague, the partner, the friend who fills a particular need. We're present with them, but not fully. We're managing the interaction more than inhabiting it. You've been in those conversations, the ones where you're technically present, but also somehow, slightly to the left of yourself. And then there are moments, rare, and not something you can manufacture, that he called I-thou, where two people actually meet, where there's no performance, no management, no version being offered instead of the real thing. Where one person sees another and the seeing is complete. He believed these moments were among the most significant things that could happen between two human beings. He also knew they couldn't be forced. You can't decide to have an I-thou encounter any more than you can decide to fall asleep. The conditions either exist or they don't. What you can do, what I think is the only thing available, is notice when they happen, and not dismiss them as ordinary when they're not. The people who loved you without asking you to be smaller, they were offering you exactly this, whether they knew it or not. I want to try to name what they actually did, not in the abstract, specifically. They let you finish your sentences, not just the polished ones, the ones that started somewhere real and took a while to arrive, that changed direction twice before landing, that ended somewhere neither of you expected. They waited, without the small signals that mean hurry up, without the glance that means you've taken too long, without the redirect that means we're going somewhere more comfortable now. They remembered the things you mentioned once quietly, without emphasis. The detail you dropped into a conversation at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday that you weren't even sure you meant to say out loud. And then, weeks later, they asked about it, not because they were keeping score, because they were actually listening. They disagreed with you without making you feel like the disagreement was a verdict on your worth, which sounds simple, which is, in practice, one of the rarest things one person can offer another. And they stayed in the room when things got complicated. Not every room, not every time, nobody does that. But enough times that you learned slowly that complicated didn't mean unwelcome here, that you didn't have to resolve yourself before showing up, that you could arrive still in the middle of something and that would be okay. So here is what I want to say to you directly. Not about them, about you. Because I think there is something that happens when you've been loved without being asked to be smaller. Something that goes beyond gratitude, beyond the warmth of being remembered and seen and stayed with. Something that is harder to name and more important than any of it. You start to understand what you actually are, not the edited version, not the one who calculates how much is too much before speaking, not the one who arrives already slightly contracted, already preparing for the adjustment, but the one who exists underneath all of that management. The one who has opinions with edges and feelings, without neat explanations and thoughts that change direction twice before landing. That person was always there. She was just waiting for a room that could hold her, and now you've been in that room, which means you know it exists, which means you can't entirely unknow it. Nobody told you that being loved like that would change what you're willing to settle for. So I'm telling you now, you were not too much. You were never too much. You were just in rooms that were too small. This letter doesn't end with a promise. I'm not going to tell you that now that you know this, the smaller rooms won't still feel small sometimes, that you won't still contract automatically, out of habit, in spaces that don't have room for all of you. That knowing the difference will make the difference feel less real. It will still feel real. The editing will still start before you've said a word in certain rooms. The calculation will still happen. How much is too much? Which version is appropriate here? But something has shifted. Underneath the habit, underneath the contraction, there is now something that wasn't there before, a room you've actually been in, a person, or more than one, if you've been lucky, who held the full version of you without asking it to be smaller. That happened. It's real. It can't be taken back. And when the smaller rooms feel particularly small, when the adjustment starts before you've even walked in, you can remember. You know what the other kind feels like. That's not nothing. That's actually everything. For anyone who found this at the right moment, or maybe it found you, there is more here. This channel exists for the things that are hard to name, for the feelings that have been waiting a long time for someone to finally say them out loud, for the rooms you've been in that changed something in you. Even if you couldn't explain how at the time, step B so the next one arrives when it should. And if something in this one stayed with you, a comment goes a long way. What room are you thinking about right now?